its source. Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today we're going to talk about rhythm and subdivision. We're going to be talking about the downbeat, the upbeat, how to divide our beats. Whenever you learn an instrument, this is going to be drilled into you. Like drummers, for example, like this is like their job. Like they are meant to keep tempo. And one of the ways they do that is by keeping rhythm. And if they move their tempo, they're going to lose their rhythm. But first we need to understand how we can kind of pick these things apart. Another thing is, like, if you're going to learn clarinet, piano, flute, these are all instruments that I've learned, and I've learned a couple others. This is just going to be drilled into you. Like, this isn't just drums. This is everyone. Like, everyone has to be able to relate their time to everyone else. And if you're out of time, meaning your rhythm's not consistent, you've changed it somehow, which is, we explored that idea earlier, that tempo determines rhythm, then you're going to have issues. So it's really, 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 really important. But it's even more important that we know how to break these things apart, how to look at it and analyze it so we can all think about it the same way, so we could see and recognize trends and behaviors. So we're going to be looking at this. And so I have nothing opened here. It's at 80 beats per minute. We're going to be dealing in 4/4. We're going to talk about meters and how the meters influence this. But first we have to lay down the rules again on how to observe rhythm. So right off the bat, we have a quarter note here, and we're going to put in some quarter notes. We're going to put in 4 of them. And I want to point out some things here. So there's ways to count this. There are academic ways to analyze this. We're going to look at the basics. So whenever you have a meter of some kind, and in this case it's 4/4, so quarter note gets the beat, there's 4 beats in a measure, we're going to recognize that each one of these beats can be counted. There's 4 beats, and so we can recognize this as beat 1, 2, 3, 4. And so you could go through and count that. And if you were to put this out over and over and over, you could be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the next measure, I believe I could copy and paste. Yeah. So you keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I've already broken a rule of rhythm, which is I'm not sticking with my tempo. So I have to stay in my tempo. If you leave your tempo and you intend to play with anyone else, you are gonna have some serious issues. Either they have to be able to intuitively follow what you're gonna do, or you're just like not going to play with anyone else. Maybe it's an improvisation, solo piano, rhythm is open to you. But you'll get a lot more for respect for really having a solid tempo, because anyone can waver from tempo. Like my brothers and sisters could do it, a baby can do it, like anyone can waver from tempo. It takes a master to be able to hold that tempo right where it's at. It creates the beat for your music. It's consistent. It's one of the reasons why I think EDM is popular. One of its attractiveness is its tempo is pretty much metronomically perfect, and that thump, doom, 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 it just has an attractiveness to us when we can feel the intuitiveness of a rhythm repeatedly hitting. So we've got beats 1 through 4 here. So that's the first way you count them. You just count them 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, something we should note here is you're going to hear terms tossed around. So beat 1 is the downbeat. Now each one of these beats though can be considered a downbeat. The reason for this is it's a strong beat in the meter. It gets a little funkier later. But there have these things called upbeats. So let's say that we replace all of these with 1/8 notes. And so we turn these, I think there's a way to just split them by selecting it. Okay. So we have these 1/8 notes here. And these 1/8 notes, so these are counted a bit different. Ignore the pitch. We're looking exclusively at how they interact with rhythm. So we've got these 1/8 notes here, and now we see we've got beat 1 here, and then we have, so this is half a beat, and then we have this middle thing. Then we've got another beat 2. These are called upbeats, these in-between beats. And so we have 1 and you'll say and on the upbeats. So you go 1 and 2. This is beat 2 because that makes sense, because this is first beat. Here's our second beat, would be right here naturally. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's how you would roll out your first thing. So you will count these. Now, a musician, if you're counting along and you're playing in a band and you're playing quarter notes like da 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 da, or that was never mind, that wasn't quarter notes. 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, like you're going 1 2 3 4, that kind of a thing. is going to be difficult to keep tempo because there's all this space in between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so one thing musicians will do is while they're playing that, they'll be like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and they'll count the upbeats. This is called subdividing. This is subdividing right here, but the musicians will do this to keep in time. And so when they look at this, now you need to be aware that these upbeats exist, and compositionally, they are very, very important. They create a sense of rhythm. Now, so that's your like basic how to break a beat down. There's another one, which is when you turn them into 16th notes. We're going to talk about triplets also in this video. So get ready to get crazy, I guess. But if we go, I believe that's 3. Yeah, 3. So we could turn these into 16th notes. Whoops, I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay, so we have these 16th notes. Well, now we've got one beat broken up into 4 parts. And the way I've been taught to count this, apparently there's other ways to count this. Like internationally, people use different things according to their language. But the way I was taught to count it, and the way everyone else I've met counts it thus far, counts it 1 E and And so, and you'll hear like in practice, you'll hear people say, pick it up on the to like beat 3 or whatever. And people will toss these out like, oh, I think you have an issue on this. And they'll be really, really specific about where the issue is. This is an important thing. It allows us to communicate very exactly the problems we're having. So we'll have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and so we count our beats as we're going, and then we reach the next measure and we'll count it out. We'll go, let me see if I can. I have this selector tool. I don't know what the deal is with not letting me select the whole thing. There we go. And so Control C, Control V. So you have 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and musicians will count this in their head too while they play stuff. And because the intervals are even smaller, you're more accurate. Granted that you can like keep track of all the stuff while it's going on in your head. So that's one way to break things up. And we're looking at very basic examples right now. It gets kind of crazy. But so there's that method. And so let's say that we had a measure that went like this. Let's say we get rid of this. So we're putting it to rest. Okay, let's create some holes in our rhythm. So let's say that this was our rhythm. You would count it 1 E and up, E and up, E and 4 E and up. So hopefully you get it. You don't say what's there. And what people will do is they'll often count it out loud and clap. So they'll be like 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and so they'll clap and count it. And you'd be surprised because they'll go pretty darn quick, and it's really great for learning to read music quickly, being able to recognize rhythms, because you start going pretty darn fast and clapping and counting starts getting a mess. So what you do is you start out slow and you speed up. One of the most important things though is that you keep your tempo straight. So one of the things people do is they'll turn on a metronome and they'll play it with a metronome. I'm going to start here and measure 5. So you hear the metronome 1 and 2 and what? I counted that wrong. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's pretty slow tempo. So we would subdivide that. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, and they'll have them clap to it, and we'll do all these things to really study rhythm. I'm just introducing you to the concept right now. So you can combine rhythms using rests and clap and count, and you can sort of observe how rhythms behave. Another thing you can do is you can use this thing called triplets. So well, maybe I won't talk about borrowed time. So we have this thing called triplets. So what happens, like for example, we have eighth notes. Eighth notes are typically 2 in one beat. What happens if we want to stick 3 eighth notes in one beat? So normally it's 1 and 2 and 3 and, but if you want to stick 3 in a beat, you go triple it, 1, like that's the way I was taught to count it. You just say triplet. You don't count them. So there are ways of counting them. Like it's not that complicated to figure out. So I'm not going to talk about borrowed time or tuplets or triplets in this video. I'm going to save that for the video where I get into time signatures, because it'll be a lot more intuitive and make a lot more sense when I do it there. So that's your basic rhythm. So if we were to have something that's like, let's get rid of this like kind of crazier looking one, and let's replace it with something that's a little more conventional for a beginner. So let's put out like a beat 1, and then we'll put a rest down. So just select rest. and we'll move over to the next beat, and we'll put down another quarter note, and then we'll put down 2 eighth notes. So this is a rhythm, right? This is a very fundamental rhythm. And if we were to count it, it'd be, if we were to subdivide while we're doing it too. So we have eighth notes, so I'm going to subdivide at the eighth note level. So the rhythm would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Well, there's nothing here, so there wouldn't be a clap at the end. But as you can see, I didn't clap here, and I clapped twice, even though I was subdividing out loud. So this is something that I recommend you just practice. You just go through, write out some rhythms, practice reading them, play it with the metronome, and click while it's clicking, go at it, and do it. Like, this is the only way. People think that they could just watch videos like this and then go and do it. That's not the way music is. You need to go and practice. When you do it, it's more than just hearing the information and understanding the idea. These things need to become intuitive. They need to be absorbed into you. You need to be able to take it and apply it, to be able to sit down at a piano and understand what kind of rhythms you like and how they mix and meld. You'll be able to pull things and be creative. Being able to understand and regurgitate information is not that important as far as like music theory. When it comes to creating music, it's more important that you have more than you just know it, but that you can intuitively use it. So I guess it is regurgitating information still, but it's like on a whole nother level. Like, that's why practice is such a huge deal to musicians, is it has to be something that just naturally is natural to you, just comes. So that's like a basic rhythm. That's how you count it. We could add like an eighth note rest here. Where's my rest tool? It's up here somewhere. We could put a rest here. So now it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 if I were to loop it. And you could put in a whole bunch of other things here and just really go at it. I encourage you to learn the 16th note system very well too, like 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a da 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 da. So that's rhythm in a nutshell. I'm going to approach a little bit more on rhythm, and then we're going to really start getting into pitches and notes and the major scale and things like that, because I really want this to be solid, because later on it becomes a huge asset to you. But for now, this should be okay. As far as you can go, I think there are more options with harmony. Obviously, there are just as many options with rhythm, but it benefits you less to really get in depth in rhythm here as it will down the road after you've learned harmony. Then you'll be like, oh my gosh, I need to really focus more on rhythm. Like, it's a big thing that I've been focusing on recently, learning more rhythms. After a while, you'll notice that most pop songs, though, most songs that you want to make aren't too complicated rhythmically. So if you really want to get into the advanced stuff, you've really got to kind of get into the heavy duty counting and meter. So if you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.
I'm Joe, and I'm a rock climber, and we're here at Hangar 18.